All right. YouTube only version. Let's get into it, man. First time for that. I'm actually excited for this. Cool. So Duke TCU. Okay, we're on the second round. Let's focus on these games a little bit. I think with Duke, the thing I was impressed most in that ACC tournament was the play of Caden Boozer. He was awesome. And this is not Cameron Boozer, it's Caden. Caden was awesome. Okay, he really played well, especially in that Virginia game, and he's just running the offense really well. It's kind of like it's to the point where it was like you thought Caleb Foster would be a bigger loss, and he's really playing like it's not that big of a deal. We'll be okay. I think he's almost running the offense better than Caleb Foster was, which is really impressive to say. Isaiah Evans is shooting really well, and then you just got so many guys on Duke that have just been real studs. I wanted to give them a lot of credit here. I think TCU can't really run with them, and I got Duke in that Sweet 16.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, number one overall seed, it's historically done so well at avoiding the upset early, right? Like no one's invulnerable in this tournament, but I really think that they could pull off something special. So I have Duke and St. John's in my Sweet 16. Very interested to see what you think of this next one. I think it could be maybe the most neck and neck game we have with Bill Self versus Calipari.
Yeah. This game really interesting. St. John's has been off the charts, dude. Like
hmm
Kazuki Ejiofor is that guy. You got Ian Jackson playing better. They had that one guard. It was Darling. He was awesome in that UConn game. Like, talk about a guy that just plays hard on every possession. It was super fun to watch him play, and the Madison Square Garden crowd was just absolutely loving him in that game. And then Kansas, I've talked about the problems all year. Like, I went into this tournament just not thinking that they'd go far. And if they had a team like Northern Iowa, if they had a team like High Point, it would be really difficult for them to compete, and I would have picked that team in a second. I don't think Cal Baptist has that, and we talked about that a little bit in the first round part. But I think St. John's just exploits enough holes to beat Kansas here. So I agree completely there. So South Florida, Michigan State. Talk to me about what you've seen from Michigan State this year. I've talked about it a lot, just with Big Ten stuff and trying to get Michigan State more involved in the podcast. And I know a lot of people on the staff. So talk to me about what you've seen from State.
Yeah, I think that Michigan State, like a lot of Big Ten teams, ended up being risers at the end of the year. I don't think that many of them fell off. They've ran into some tough teams, right? They had some like maybe quality losses, we'll call them. But Michigan State was able to find a 3-point shot throughout the end of the year, right? Jackson Kohler stepped out and made a lot. The rise of Jordan Scott, their freshman guard, really impressive. And then Kurt Tang obviously was able to take advantage as well. So that's what you and I said their question mark would be. The fact that Jeremy Fierce has risen his average from almost 14 a game to 20 is like that's super impressive, and kind of like an A-Cuff is when you need someone to make it happen, he can do it. So I'm really impressed. Obviously, we knew their defense was maybe their main focal point, especially against Duke when we saw them lock them up. So the fact that they were able to find some offense, obviously it wasn't the best or consistent, but the fact they were able to find it was really like telling come tournament time. And yeah, I mean, if it plays out like it did with North Dakota State and South Florida, I think they're just the better team, right? And one thing that Thomas those teams don't do is create turnovers for themselves, right? Make mistakes. I think this is something where they can take advantage and crash course for UCLA or UConn, right? Really interesting matchup. So I got Michigan State. I wouldn't hate, I know we did last year, but I wouldn't hate having them go to the Elite Eight again. They're really got an impressive roster this year.
Yeah. No, they definitely are pretty impressive here. UCLA, UConn. I think this is an interesting game. Again, depends on Bilodeau's health. Like his importance to UCLA's offense is really important. He averaged 17 points a game. And you could see like the loss that was felt against Purdue in that Big Ten tournament. Assuming he's healthy and assuming you're playing a team like UConn, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that, man, UCLA was a team that we had on our list, like could be in that tier 2 Big Ten, right? And they showed that at home. I'm very interested on the road, right? And that's what it's tough because, you go where your seeds are, and UConn obviously Going to fall into an East Coast bracket, right? And that's what happened here. Winning two in a row against a tough UCF Big 12 team into a Big East team in UConn, like that's really tough. So I don't know. It's an even matchup. I do like the bigs in this one. I like Terrace Reed, a lot, and he's going to have to probably do 10 to 10 in the tournament, right? He's going to have to, produce these numbers to take the edge off of their guards and Ejiofor, right? They just take the or not Ejiofor, but their other big, like take the pressure off them. So I think UCLA is just gonna. It's too many games away. I think UConn's going to take care of this one. It's going to be UConn Michigan State, a classic, March matchup. I think it's going to be a really stacked Elite Eight on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, the thing is with this bracket is like look at the coaches we have in here.
Yes.
John Shire, Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, and then Dan Hurley. Like it's
Mhm.
just so tough to pick against any of those guys for an upset to go through. Right.
Agreed.
Like, and then that's kinda, I think, where we're at with this bracket. I mean, this is what I have in my actual bracket, like, right here in the Sweet 16, because, like, there's no team that really has a path to get by these guys. Like, South Florida and Michigan State is probably the only one you could pick holes at, but Michigan State has dealt with teams like South Florida all season. They make sure they schedule that. They make sure they're ready for that, you know? And that's part of the reason why, like, even though that's probably the only one you would pick, me knowing what I know about Michigan State is they're gonna be 1000% ready to go and be able to get that game done. So, I think this is clearly what you should have for your Sweet 16, and I'm pretty excited for that side of the bracket.
I agree. I think our bracket's looking good so far. St. John's most vulnerable, but also hottest. So I like this Sweet 16.
All right, let's move into the South. So, Florida, Iowa. This one's interesting. You talked about like the defense of Florida and or of Iowa, sorry. And the main thing, like, I'm curious of, and this is partly looking at, like, Sturts from a draft perspective, is I've been concerned about, like, his burst and, like, getting by people, right? So, do you think Sturts would be able to, like, go up against a really good defense like Florida and be able to score at a high enough clip to beat Florida? Because, like, I don't see much scoring help on Iowa, and that's kind of the concern with them making, like, a long run. But, like, if you're looking at it, they can compete a little bit physically. They've gone against, like, teams like Florida before, and Florida doesn't have a crazy offense, There's not, like, an elite scorer that is going to score 30. They just have multiple guys that could score 30, you know? So that's what's interesting here, and I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I think that we've seen Iowa go against good teams, right? We saw them go against Michigan. We saw them go against Nebraska, both close games. And you're right. What Michigan and Nebraska did, right? Top two defenses of the Big Ten. Um, Michigan, one of the best defenses in the country, is they went at Sturts, right? They put Yaxel Lendenberg on Sturts. They made him uncomfortable. And he really didn't shine in those moments, right? His teammates do step up. They're a complete team, but that's why they weren't a top four seed in the Big Ten this year because they have one guy. And I think that Florida can do the same thing. Iowa's good enough defensively to make Florida uncomfortable for sure. They don't have Walter Clayton, right? They don't have another guard to get it off of these big guys' hands, and score some buckets. But I think that they're just so deep that Iowa's going to need to outscore their bench. And I just don't know if like Iowa has those guys because when you put a defensive team like Florida on Iowa, they're going to target Sturts. They're going to make him uncomfortable and say, we're going to let the other guys beat us. That's what Michigan did. Again, these were close games, right? That's what Nebraska did. Iowa ended up, I think, bringing it back from 10 in the last minute. Like, they have the guys. It's just not their forte. So this is a tough second pull for Iowa, right? You'd rather have a team that might let them play a little more fast paced. Florida can control the pace, and they can also run teams once they get up by 10. So I think that Florida is probably going to be my pick here. I agree with you where Sturts averages 10, no one or 20, no one else averages more than 10. Versus again, I want to hear your opinions, but I love Florida's depth. I think that there's five different guys that can go off on any night. So I'm going to pick Florida here.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement here. I like that's the thing with Sturts that I'm like really curious of and why I haven't, because normally guys like him I just absolutely love. But it's more the burst. that's really been concerning for me when I'm looking at him draft wise. And I think that's where a team like Florida, a team like Michigan, all these one seeds can really just exploit that a little too much for Iowa to get to the next level. So I think Iowa's so close and we have them winning a game. I just think it's a really tough matchup against Florida. Yeah. Vandy Troy here. I want to get your thoughts. This is like people want to think Sweet 16. Like you could think Troy, you know?
Yeah,
So
no, I agree. I think that we talked about off air, but the upsets are going to happen this year in the second and third round, right? Not as much the first. People want it to be the first, but the second and third round, once you get these 4 versus 5, 1 versus 5, like that's when like some real crazy stuff can happen because top to bottom, NIL and portal have changed the way that the Power Four teams play basketball, right? Conferences have gotten deeper, rosters have gotten better because you're just able to fill any need that you have, right? And that adversely helps and hurts someone like Troy, right? Who obviously has been good for a few years in a row, but lost some better players to the portal, right? Like it's just so tough to stay relevant. So this is a game where, again, Troy puts everything they have into Nebraska. I like Vanderbilt to come out and really run away with it, right? It's just so hard to pick up that second win. Will there be a double digit seed in the Sweet 16? Of course, right? We'll try to find that one. I don't think it's going to be Troy. I think Vanderbilt and how they played in the SEC tournament, awful loss, like you said, maybe a necessary loss. I think that even if Nebraska's here, I like Vanderbilt to win this game.
yeah, complete agreement. They looked awesome in that SEC
They
title.
did. They really
Um,
did against two
yeah,
great teams in a row. Like it was pretty impressive.
it was impressive. So we're leading into that rematch, which I'll be
Yes.
excited to talk about. VCU Illinois here. This one might be the one where you're thinking,
Yeah.
double digit seed. And that's just because of the stuff we've talked about it with Illinois, like really elite offense, but tends to struggle against teams that can score the same clip as them. You saw the Alabama game back and forth, like all over the place. And there's been plenty of games where Illinois had that, right? And VCU is just a physical team that gets you off, like they make you really uncomfortable. And we've seen Keaton Wagler at times be uncomfortable, I love Wagler. I think he's a really good player, but he's at the point where he plays so close to the ground that and he's not physical enough to really make it not bother him. So if you go up against a physical defensive team, kind of like VCU, it's going to be a little tricky for you. So I'm interested to see if you think VCU could close this game. But, I think if you're looking at an upset, this could be one.
No, you're totally right. So Illinois has problems in the last seconds of games, and it's literally the last second. So they've lost, I think, 5, maybe I don't know. I think it's 6 games since the new year,
Mhm.
5 in overtime. Like
Gee.
you know what I mean? Like they weren't
Yeah.
losing when it clock hit 0. They was a tie game. So it's not that they are a team that has holes. Like they just need to make the last shot. And Wagler is just young, right? He's young. He came out of nowhere. He's missed a couple big ones, and of course he's playing well enough that it should not matter. But I thought Stojakovic would be the guy, and they've turned to Wagler, and it's great. But if VCU keeps this close, we know that they can win that game in the last second. We saw it, right?
Yeah.
Illinois can't. So I have Illinois going on because I think they'll keep it out of arm's length. I think it'll be a free throw game, but I don't hate if you sway VCU here because if it's a 1 point game at the end, I know who I'm leaning towards. So, yeah, it's tough. This one's really tough. I think Illinois is running into a buzzsaw with Houston and Florida anyway. So, VCU wants to knock them off here while they're looking ahead. Totally get it. But yeah, this was a tough one to pick.
Yeah. I have Illinois here,
Okay, cool.
but I don't know if we're going to get another double digit seed in.
I'm looking at these 2 10s below, so it's a little, pretty tough.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, if we want to take VCU here and make that our 11, I'm down.
I think we take VCU here.
Awesome.
You know,
The takes
change it,
bracket.
yeah, change it up a little bit. And I mean, I could see it, man. Phil Martelli Jr., come
Yep.
on. You
Yep.
know,
I
uh,
agree.
they've been great this year. And I just do think it's almost too perfect to be true because I do see that game being really close.
And I
And I
think if
love
North
it.
Carolina gets hot, they could beat Illinois too. So it's like really that game could fall either way. So I think VCU is a great pick here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like that pick a lot. Houston, Texas A&M. two teams that are physical, tough, and I think Houston, whenever they play a team like that, always wins. You know,
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate that Houston's more under the radar than they have been the last couple of years. Man, last year was heartbreaking, but I think Houston here against St. Mary's or Texas A&M, just too physical while scoring the ball. So
yeah,
I agree.
for sure, for sure. All right, let's move back up. We'll go to the West here. Arizona, Utah State. Okay, hear me out.
Oh,
Utah
no.
State has been awesome this year. Okay, Jarrett Calhoun has gotten these guys playing at just a ridiculously high level, right? And I fall for them every year, 100%. I take it. I
Yep.
take it on the heart. But I'm telling you, man, Arizona is the epitome of a team that just got hot in the Big 12 tournament and is starting to get tired. Koa Pete has not been the same as the beginning of the year. Jaden Bradley, awesome guard. Braden Burry's awesome guard. But
Mhm.
we tend to see Arizona run into these little ruts where they go down and then they have to come back up and come back and win the game, right? I think you're going up against a State team where nobody's going to expect it. Everybody's expecting Arizona is going to win this game. I think this is the game where Arizona actually falls off, can't compete with the 3-point depth that Utah State can provide, and I think Utah State gets it done.
Jake, you're crazy. No, I love the logic. I agree. I'm nervous about the one seeds who had to play deep into their tournaments, right? The one thing I'll say, and if you're picking Utah State on your personal bracket, maybe we can mix it up here. The one thing I'll say is I feel like there were two postseason tournaments for Arizona, right? You had the November tournaments where Arizona, Michigan, Duke, like all these teams showed us that they can win 6 in a row against really good teams, right? And then you had the postseason tournament. Arizona did it again. Duke did it again. Michigan got all the way to the final, right? Florida, got upset but looked hot at the end of the year. The last 5 games of the regular season, especially in these big power conferences, feels like a tournament atmosphere. Like every game feels like win or lose your conference, right? Win or go home. And what they did after the 2 losses to Kansas and Texas Tech are pretty unbelievable, right? Just have not lost since. We thought that they were done. Like I honestly thought they were going to be a 5-loss team after those two. I'm like, finally, someone poked a hole in
Yeah.
Arizona. They responded by Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, Houston, all wins, right? So that's showing me that in a 6-game scenario, they can do it again. I think we both have the same result the next round. So I think we maybe pick Arizona here because we know, I mean, unless you're going super crazy with Utah State, which I would love to hear that. I think we go Arizona here, knowing that they might get beat in the Sweet 16.
I'm all right with it, but I did go super crazy. Early day. That's the thing. Like I told you, throughout the whole year, I've seen holes in Arizona. Okay. Throughout the whole year, I've seen holes in Arkansas. And that's why, like, I see Utah State, a team that could exploit those holes, winning both of them, you know? And it's also because I love Calhoun. I love what Utah State is. They're just a really well-run basketball team, and they were underseeded. They were just underseeded completely.
They were.
So you got all those holes here, and yes, I might be wrong. They might lose to Villanova. But when you're looking at this here, like I think they got a chip on their shoulder. They're an experienced team. They're ready to roll. And I think they're going Elite Eight. I'm fine with picking Arizona.
No, you've convinced me because I have the same feelings about Arkansas. So let's put them on a crash course. I
All
love
right.
it.
All
Utah
right.
State, Arkansas.
I
One of
can't
us
believe I
has
can.
Arizona losing, so we might as well both bite the sword. I think that the Jake's Takes matchup of the year is Utah State, Arkansas in the Elite Eight.
We better get it, man. If Villanova ruins this party, I'm gonna be ticked. But
Same with Hawaii.
yeah, exactly. Do you think Arkansas gets by Wisconsin? Because I actually had Arkansas High Point, and I thought High Point just didn't have enough like talent near the end of the game. I trust Acuff at the end of this situation more than I trust mid-major players to do it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you don't want Wisconsin to get it hot, so tough. But I think Wisconsin High Point are interchangeable in terms of how they play. And I
Okay.
think Arkansas showed in the SEC tournament that they can take on someone like an Alabama, someone like Kentucky, someone like a Florida, and doesn't matter. So it's like, can Wisconsin hit 15 threes? Absolutely. But late game situation, what did Yaxter Landenberg do? Late game situation, what will Darius Acuff do? Right? What did Braden Smith do? So I think that Wisconsin, their only hole is guys. So I think that if Nick Boyd's the one who's going to win them tournament game, Acuff's going to be the one who can play, maybe a little better than he can. So I have Arkansas beating Wisconsin in my.
Okay. Like it. Gonzaga or Texas or North
Yeah,
Carolina State. What's
I
your
thought
thought?
Gonzaga was falling off mid-year, and then they really, in a tough West Coast conference, really came alive. So hopefully they get Braden Huff back. Praying for it. But I think that I think either way, Gonzaga's got it. I think Will Wade might be out. I think he might be going to bigger places if people have money for him. So I think Gonzaga.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna go Gonzaga too. Purdue, Miami here. I don't think Miami has enough. Like, I've liked them throughout the whole year. They were my ACC, like, spotlight team that's not Duke, early on, and I've liked what Jay Lucas has done. I just think it's the first year. Like, I don't see them being a Sweet 16 team or being, like, that legit and shocking a team like Purdue, and Purdue's just playing so good. We talked about how they figured out their defensive things. Oscar Clough has been great. I don't think Miami's big enough to make Purdue, like, really feel that big presence, and, that's what I'm a little concerned there, so that's why I have Purdue there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miami, even if they lose to Missouri, it's a great season. Like they're really happy about where they're at. So interchangeable there. I think Purdue is hot, and both those teams match up poorly for Purdue. I think, or for to beat Purdue. I think they're going to handle either one.
Yeah. Michigan, St. Louis, you talked about how you're really scared for this game,
I
so
am.
you take the floor here.
Yeah, I mean it's similar to last year when they played. Was it UC Santa Barbara? It was just like what beats this team, right? Obviously, Purdue changed that a lot. I don't think there's another Purdue out there in the country. Like what they can do from that mid range like position is it's kind of old school. Like they're really good from 10 feet. I don't think there's another school like that out there. But Wisconsin beat Michigan and gave them trouble the second game because they can launch threes and they spread you out and make Mara get out of the paint, right? So St. Louis does the same thing. They shoot all five guys can shoot threes, right? They're known for that. Robbie Avila from Illinois State, like he's March Madness legend already. So it was a really tough matchup for me to see, especially with Kaysen out. Michigan's ability to pull away from teams is gone without Kaysen off the bench. He came in and they didn't lose a step. Now they're trying to figure out how to score when Elliott's on the bench, and can't dish to the bigs. So it's a tough matchup because I think it's going to be a close game. And in close games, a 3-point shooting team sometimes pulls it out. But because of what Michigan was able to do against Ohio State and Wisconsin at the end of the year, and even going back, Illinois, Michigan State, like I think the run they've had without Kaysen up until the Purdue game is impressive enough that they can win close games. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a really good game. But I wouldn't be surprised if people pick St. Louis here, but I got Michigan because of size.
I do too. I think it's the size. It's just been a little too much for mid-major throughout everything, you
For
know?
sure.
So I think it's just a little too much. I think St. Louis could really give them a run for the money, but, I
Same as
think
Santa Barbara did last year, but it's
yeah,
just at the end of the day, the big guys really stopped like the layups that might turn a game. It's like you just need to hit 15 threes, which is so hard to do unless you're Purdue. I don't think St. Louis is Purdue, so I like Michigan here.
I learned my lesson from Santa Barbara. I did.
Exactly,
Because,
exactly. I
because
was nervous.
Because Michigan here, like, they Dusty does a great job of getting them into the right positions during a game like this, during a game
Yes.
where the matchup is actually good, but I do like Michigan here. I think
Yeah.
they got enough and can get it done here.
We saw it twice. We saw it in the players era, right, where they ran the entire field, and then we saw it in the end of the Big Ten regular season, where they had to get 3 wins to wrap it up, and they ended up winning all 5. And then we saw in the Big Ten tournament. I think a lot of people had them losing to that second round game because, frankly, the games didn't matter a whole lot, right? They're maybe playing for the number 1 overall seed, but Duke kind of had that locked up. So
Yeah.
Michigan already did what they needed to do, and yet they went all the way to the championship game. So obviously, it opened some question marks. Going to point back to something you said, necessary loss. I think they're hitting the film. They're like, what do we need to adjust to beat Purdue next time? What do we need to adjust if we're not hitting 10 threes, we're only hitting 7? Like what do we need to get that extra edge? And I think that that's going to really help them against teams that they might overlook if they had one Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This Alabama Texas Tech game is going to be super fun.
Whew.
The guards, man, oh
Oh, it's going to
god,
be crazy.
it's going to be great. I'm so excited for this. Super high scoring affair, and in a high scoring affairs, I tend to lean Alabama. I just do. Yeah.
I think you'd be
Oh,
smart to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Texas Tech finally without JT, like, man, that's tough. Another team I saw in person, Alabama, man. Like it's scary what they can do against a team with a deep roster, and it doesn't matter because their guards are that impressive. So, yeah, I think it's crash course Michigan, Alabama. I had that from the start, and it's you can interchange some teams, but not a heavy upset bracket on this side, I'd say. So I really like the top four and like maybe what they can do in the second round. So we'll see. But I got Michigan, Alabama as well.
Like it. Virginia, Tennessee.
Good game.
This is a good game. This is a good game. You're gonna see a lot of, like, physicality. There's a lot of, tall, great shooters in this game. I like Virginia just a little bit more. I like their guards, and they're playing at an extremely high level right now. That's why I'd go Virginia. I think there's just a little less holes than Tennessee has. What about you?
Yeah, I'm 50-50. I think the ACC's down, but Virginia's playing really well. It's hard to look at this bracket and think that Tennessee and Kentucky both lose early. So I wouldn't hate if, this one swayed, but yeah, Virginia's probably the right pick based on how they've been playing.
Like it. You were looking at Santa Clara here.
I
Right.
was.
Yeah.
I
So what are
was.
your thoughts here?
Part of it's biased because I'm like, how can Michigan get by Iowa State in Chicago? Because, I mean, I was at the game of Michigan Purdue yesterday, right? Man, Purdue traveled well at United Center was very even. I thought Michigan was going to have a little bit of an advantage. They did not. Iowa State is just like Purdue. They beat Purdue, right? I mean, it's going to be a really tough matchup if that happens. So, maybe personally rooting for Santa Clara, but God, Iowa State, it feels like it was their year and they lost a couple because of the Big 12's, was pretty impressive, but I have Iowa State on my bracket and I'm praying Santa Clara wins.
See, I actually have Santa Clara in my bracket,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's more because of the volatility of Iowa State. Great defense, but the shooting is so volatile. You'll see them go against Arizona, have an unbelievable game, and look like the better team for the most part. And then Arizona sneaks out, and Jaden Bradley hits the shot we'll see for a while
Yep.
now in Big 12
Yep.
tournaments.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's fair.
yeah, and uh, but also they'll have a game where they lose out of nowhere to random Big 12 school, you know, and that just scares me. It just does. And
Yeah.
Santa Clara has a team where they always show up. I remember in November, I was looking at Santa Clara's out of conference. It might have been their first conference game. I can't remember if Oregon State's in their conference right now or not. But they play Oregon State at Oregon State, and we have a transfer on that team, so I keep tabs on Oregon State, and they won by 45. And I was like, "Holy crap, this team is really good this year." And they have that capability, and they were hot down the stretch. They only lost to a really good Gonzaga team who I have going pretty far, you know? So I'm really high on Santa Clara. I think they can get this done, especially against a volatile Iowa State team. If you see Iowa State on their best night, they're probably not gonna get it done. But I've seen Iowa State just be so up and down. You're in the second round, you're going up against a Santa Clara team. It's like, oh, it's Santa Clara, we'll be fine. They've never done this. They've had some unbelievable forwards in the past. Jalen Williams, who's a stud in the NBA. I think this is the year that Santa Clara shows everybody that they're actually legit.
Jake, you've convinced me. Go Broncos.
Love it. All right. So now we're in Sweet 16 here.
All right.
Duke St. John's. Oh,
In Washington, D.C., great matchup. Unbelievable.
yeah.
This is why Duke scheduled Michigan and Washington, D.C. in February. For
Mhm.
this game right here, for these two. It's the same reason St. John plays in the Garden before the Big East tournament. These coaches just know how to prepare their teams. Does Duke's injuries kill them here? Is it later? Do they win it all? It's so interesting to see what they're going to pick. I just really think that what Cam Boozer did to Michigan State, well, it's just so hard to pick against them. especially in a gym that he's already won a big game before. So I think that St. John's has it, but Duke has, has like the coaching and player advantage here. I think Patino has great guys, but he's outperforming maybe what he's at doing. Duke is underperforming somehow, and they're the greatest team in the last 20 years. So I'd pick Duke here, but what a game. Like, unbelievable coaching matchup.
The game's crazy.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's like you said, it's the bigs from Duke. Like they're just so tough to deal with, and I think St. John's, like Zuby's been awesome. He's so
Yes.
for them, and if they got so much defense that's really gonna help them. Like I think the guards, they'll throw fits on those guards from Duke. Like they'll be having problems like trying to get him the ball, but I got Duke too. I mean, this it's so tough though, so tough. These
It is.
games are fun, dude. These games are
It's a sneaky tough bracket. These top 4 teams are or top 5 teams are really good.
yeah,
I mean, like you said, unreal coaches in this bracket, but they're good teams too.
yeah. Hurley versus Izzo. What do you got here?
Oof. This is tough. This is tough. You know how I've swayed in the past, and maybe because I don't want to get burned by him, but when I saw UConn lose to Marquette, it just really took something out of me. And it's tough because I picked against them both years. They won it all. So it's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to get on the Hurley's bad side, but doesn't it feel like Izzo's going out on a Final Four? Like, doesn't have to be this year, doesn't have to be next year, doesn't be next year, but like he's gonna get his teams to compete. And even if he loses to Duke, I don't know. I feel like I could be swayed, but I got Michigan State right now.
Yeah, I have UConn, and for me, it's just the fact that I trust UConn's offense more than I
Yeah.
trust Michigan State's, and UConn's offense is down this year. Like,
Hmm.
they've had problems. They have problems with the point guard position. Like, St. John's pressured the crap out of them, and they forced UConn to turn the ball over 11 times in the first half. They average 11 turnovers per game. You know, that's been the problem with UConn. The problem with Michigan State is there's just no creation besides Jeremy Field.
Yeah.
And if they can't get the ball inside, it's just really difficult for them. The thing I have concern with UConn is Reed has gotten into foul trouble multiple times. And their backup big, the 7-footer, he's really good, but he's young.
Hmm.
So like he's not like the guy that you would trust completely to play extra minutes in this type of game. But I think UConn, like with Siles Denbury, who's been awesome this year. Braylon Mullins has fulfilled that shooter spot that it felt like UConn had been missing in the beginning of the year. I think they're figuring they have enough offensively, and their defense is just as good as Michigan State's. So being able to get back in transition, be able to make those plays, and be able to run their offense efficiently, I just trust UConn a little bit more if this matchup were to happen. I think it would just be too much on Fears to try to do it all by himself.
I like it. I like it. I think I'm going to be 50-50 to the last second on this one, but the fact you're running into Duke, really doesn't matter. So I think UConn is a perfect pick for the Jake Stakes bracket.
Well, cool. Florida Vandy. Uh, who do you got here?
I don't know. You got a smile on your face like this could be something crazy. So I have Florida, but I'm also not as well versed on the SEC as I am the Big Ten. So I really have no bias on who wins here. But I've got Florida, so I'm interested to see if you agree with that. Or I know you love Thomas Huff, so if this is the game he comes out, like I'm down. But yeah,
Yeah.
interested to see what you got, what you're thinking.
Um, so I went into this bracket thinking I would pick Florida.
Okay.
Okay. That's just kind of what I thought. I was like, they're really good. Thomas Howe, Zaven Lee, all that stuff. And then I watched this semifinal against Vanderbilt,
Yep.
and I see this kid named Duke Miles play. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, I wondered. We asked the question when we did Arkansas versus Vanderbilt, like midway through the year. We asked the question, why is Vandy so good in this net rating? This doesn't make sense. Like they're not really doing that much, but it's because of this kid. And guess why they had their stint down? Because he went out.
Hmm.
And it really, like, bothered their offense. And everybody thinks, oh, it's Tyler Tanner. He's the one scoring all these points. He's the one that's first team all SEC. He's the one doing all that stuff. You watch that tournament, it was all Duke Miles. He was passing the ball, he was facilitating, he was doing all of the stuff that mattered and making plays. And then they also got this guy that's 6'10 named Tyler Nickel, who hits every three that you ask him to hit. And I'm like, holy cow, how do you stop this stretch four? You know, like this is really difficult to do. And you saw Florida, like if Zaven Lee struggles, if Boogie
Mhm.
Flair struggles, they
Mhm.
really get into ruts offensively. Because Thomas Howe is very much, oh, I'm an offensive rebounder. I'm a glue wing. That's why I love him, because he will fit in the NBA system because he doesn't have to be a star. He just needs to be the guy that's energy that can do all the other stuff. Um, and then Vandy's bigs have just been playing a lot better. They struggle to finish like through contact a little bit, which is why I worry about a game like Houston.
Yep.
You know, that concerns me a little bit.
Right.
Um, but against Florida, like they were really able to go through Chinyalu. They were really able to go through guys like Alex Condon. So that's why I'm leaning towards more Vandy, because I think a
Mhm.
lot of people will be like, okay, Florida's going to answer some questions. They're going to
Right.
win this game. You know, they're going to do that stuff. And Vandy's kind of being slept on a little bit. Like, so that's why I think I got Vandy still winning this game. It's really tough though, because in my main bracket, I just went, oh, I love this Vandy team. They're going to the Final Four.
Yep.
But I don't see them going by Houston. So,
Yeah,
like,
I agree. Houston
yeah,
is a tough out.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm good either way. I feel like Florida's ceiling's capped. I just don't know where it is. I do like Todd Golden off of a loss, being able to like, hey, how do we fix
yeah.
this, right? How do we do this? So great matchup. You know, at the end of the day, I agree. It's sometimes about the guys when it's tied up, and Florida's got some question marks at the guards, you know, compared to Vandy, who's really just stuck with the same guys, you know. So I'm down to pick Vanderbilt here. I think that Houston's going to be tough for anybody. So yeah, would love to see that matchup. But I could put the Jake's take stamps on Vanderbilt if we want to do that right now.
Let's do this. Let's go Florida, Houston, and then we got Houston in the Final Four.
Perfect. Either
Okay.
way, and we can talk about that matchup soon or right now. But Houston, man, I mean, what a pull to go into your home city for the Elite Eight, Sweet 16 because yeah, their main question mark, I feel like, was just not being the same level of intensity as last year's team. Like maybe games like on the road in the Big 12, they won in the past, they didn't this year. And it's been so impressive what they've done in the Big 12. Like so impressive. Like they weren't in it, 4 years ago. So this is so crazy what they're doing. The fact that they're in Houston, holy cow. I think
It
that
is.
they could really get it done. Interested to see how you think they match up big versus big with Florida and Houston, but I'm down to pick Houston to go to the Final Four here. I went back and forth on this matchup exactly a lot.
Yeah, if you're looking at Florida, Houston, especially, like just the way Tugler played in that Big 12 championship really makes me feel good because like we talked about with Houston when talking about the regular season games. When Tugler gets into foul trouble, they get into these really bad spurts. And that's part of the reason, like, when I had the Vandy Houston game, Vandy's really good at getting people into foul trouble,
Yeah,
which was part of the reason I was like, okay, Vandy can, probably make this happen with the guard play. I think Duke Miles is such a hard
for
cover.
sure.
But if you're looking at specifically Houston versus Florida, it's different
Yeah,
because
true.
like Flemings can really get to his spots against a weak Florida backcourt to me defensively. And like I just don't see many like things that Florida can exploit. I see more things that Houston can exploit here. And that's why I feel like it's safe if we want Houston to go in the Final Four to put Florida in that next round and to get revenge on a team like Vandy, because I actually think Vandy would exploit more things with Houston compared to that. Because if you're Houston, you want to make sure, okay, we keep Tugler in this game. We don't want to rely on a guy like I think Kata is their backup center, but
Okay. Yep.
I don't remember exactly because that sounds like, the Celtics backup the center, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like, when he comes into the game, it's, really difficult for them because he goes more for shot blocks
Mhm.
and, compared to a guy like Tugler, and it's actually leads to people being easier to score inside, right?
Yeah.
So, looking at it that way, Like I trust Houston more against a team like Florida. They stay out of foul trouble. But if you go up against a team like Vandy, it might be a little scary.
No, that's fair. I think it's really interesting this side of the bracket because like it's like rock paper scissors. Whoever you like match up against each other, someone's got the advantage. Like Florida Houston, I really like how Houston matches up. But Vandy Houston's a different matchup, and then Illinois Vandy would be definitely different if Illinois can pull off an upset, right? Because Illinois 1 through 5 is long, so it's very interesting to see like what the difference would be. I'm excited, for like that VCU hopefully run, like that could shake things up, but man, top 4 seeds in this side, or top 5 seeds in this side are really, really interesting. So yeah, I'd probably go Houston, but might be a safe pick because I think whoever wins out of this one's getting might lose in the final four. So I think pick who you want in this one. It's viewer, it's up to you. Like no worries if you pick someone different.
For sure, for sure. Let's move up to the West here. So we got Utah State and Arkansas. um, and we both talked about it. Like we do see holes in that Arkansas team defensively. So I have Utah State. Viewer knows mine, but what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, no, we know we're not going to agree on this one because I got Arkansas. But I also think that if either team gets to this point, it's because they're hot, and if Utah State's hot, that's so dangerous, especially against Arkansas. I think Arkansas would rather play Arizona, like frankly, than a
Yeah.
hot Utah State team, just because that's what March is about, right? It's about pulling off upsets, and this one would be, maybe a look ahead game for Arkansas. Like they're like, oh, thank God we don't play Arizona. So it's all like personnel changes here. So I go Arkansas here, but I think that, based on who you have going to the Final Four, I'm down to give Utah State one more game. Very
I'm
interested.
cool
So
with Arkansas. I'm cool
okay.
with Arkansas. I've grown on them a little bit, but
It's a fun team to watch. It's a fun coach. So I think that Utah State, we've seen less upsets every year. So I think that it's a safe pick, especially if you have them lose the next round, like, at that point, like similar to a Florida. But yeah,
yeah. This game really interesting.
very interesting.
So we talked about Purdue, Miami, and like my concern was Miami's bigs weren't big enough for that. Gonzaga's got big enough bigs. Like
Yes.
they're really talented from the Graham EK is unbelievable.
Hmm.
I I really like Gonzaga in this matchup. Like, I think
Yeah.
if you're Purdue, you're like, "Seriously? Gonzaga's a 3 seed on this side?" Like, I think it's just really tough, and everybody's talked about, "Oh, Gonzaga's not playing anybody," like, they're not doing much. When they played Michigan, they got smoked, you know? Um, I feel like Gonzaga's heard all the noise, and I feel like Mark Few, like, this is your year, man.
Yeah.
So, I got Gonzaga here.
No, that's fair. I have Purdue just because of what I saw, so it's like a little more recency bias. But if there was a matchup I didn't want for them, it's Gonzaga. Like I wanted Virginia to be their 3 seed. You know what I mean? Like it's so tough. They're probably hoping for a Texas upset or a North Carolina State upset. So I think in terms of mixing it up for the takes bracket versus my own, I think this would be like the clear, like I could see how they win this game. Like I think Gonzaga, is an easy one to pick here. So how Purdue beats them. Hope Gonzaga's backup bigs hurt again. Like, it's just like hopefully they can wear them out. No foul trouble. What Purdue did to Michigan was they got up 10 and they basically said, we're going to control the entire game. So you need to do that against Gonzaga. You need to limit their threes. Basically, every run Michigan had, Purdue stopped them. Like it was like, here's a 3 to end your run. You got fouled on a 3 to end your run. Like they have that ability. So if Purdue gets down, that could be really, really tough. So I'm down to pick Gonzaga here. I think that they showed a lot from that early disappointment this season.
Yeah, no, I think they're really playing a lot better, and, I'm just trusting them a little bit more here in this situation. So, let's do these 2 Elite 8 games before we go down. Duke, UConn. This is crazy.
It feels like a national championship game.
Yeah.
So, it's, oh, man, you think of the games that Duke lost the last 2 years, like insane games. Like that Duke Houston game was nuts the last year, and even the year before in the Elite Eight. Like Shire's gotten his teams to this point, and it's not like they've even choked. Like last year was definitely a little bit of choke, but like they just ran into a crazy game. So if anyone can do that, it's Hurley. So I've got Duke here, but I'm also like, I picked Duke in January to get to this part. So it's like a little just tough for me to go against them. The injuries are questionable. Like the injuries make it a real game. It was a lot different than when we were picking when they were fully healthy. Yeah, again, I side with the preparation. I side with Duke being in Washington, D.C. and playing against Michigan, who I think is better than UConn, even without the LJ Casey. You know what I mean? Like, I side with the prep. Man, it's tough. I don't know. Which way are you leaning right now?
Um, so I have this in my bracket. I have this
You
as
do? Okay.
Elite Eight. And I actually have UConn.
Why do you have UConn?
And it's partly because I just read Dan Hurley's book. It's partly that, but also it's because of like this team, they played so bad against St. John, like so bad. And most of the time we always just count those teams out, right? And the thing with UConn is like the guards are just so much better than Duke's guards. Like so much better. You know, you got Silas Denbury, who's been awesome this year. You got Braylon Mullins. You got Solo Ball. You got all these guys that have been around and stuck around a while. And the thing about me reading Dan Hurley's book is he talks, even though he's a crazy person, he talks a lot about like how he builds his team and how he builds his culture, right? And like he talks about like bringing in these guys, creating relationships with him, and like that's all that matters. And I feel like camaraderie when it comes to March Madness matters so much compared to going against guys like freshmen and stuff like that. That's the only reason I picked UConn because on paper, I think Duke is probably the better team,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And the concerning thing here is too is, um, I talked about if Travis Reed's in foul trouble, UConn becomes a different team. Well, Cameron Boozer's going against him. He's probably
Mhm.
going to be in foul trouble in this game, you know?
Right.
So I'm very much okay with picking Duke here. I feel like that's where you're leaning. I have UConn as my champion. So yeah. And
Wow.
like that's the thing here. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
like so I think this is probably UConn's hardest game, you know, personally.
Yes, I agree. I
Um
agree.
and that's where it's like I'm very much okay with picking Duke here. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
If we had, say, we advanced the winner of this to the national champion in the Jake Stakes bracket, who would you like over Houston more, Duke or UConn?
I would like
Like in a neutral site game, who you putting $10 on, Duke or UConn? I think we should pick whoever like Vegas is saying could beat Houston because that's who they're running into here.
I would like UConn.
I think then we go UConn. I mean, for a Michigan Wolverines fan, I don't like that you've already eliminated the three teams with top 10 offense and defense. So I'm a little nervous about what you're going to do to Michigan. Um, I think whoever wins this game is going to Natty. So I think that if we want to do, a team that you like, whoever you think matches well against Houston, especially with the injuries, I think UConn's a great pick.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like you got Caravan on this team. You got so many guys have been here so long, and nobody's talking about 'em. Nobody. This is how it was every single year. You
I
don't
love
hear
Solo Ball. I
yeah,
think he's great.
like, you don't think Hurley's just using this to fuel them up?
Yeah.
Like, and the way they practice too, I'm just like, "Why is nobody talking about them?" You know?
Hmm.
And it does make sense. It's like you just got smoked by St. John's. We shouldn't
Yeah.
be talking about you. But Duke took care of St. John's. So
If you want to get to that like Coach K level, you already got the championships. You need Final Fours. Like you need to get there. So it's so tough for me to pick against Duke,
I
especially
know,
we
that's
already
where
have
I'm at.
Florida. We already have Florida and Arizona drop, and obviously those are the two that I think could drop early. So getting rid of Duke is tough, but yeah, we can chat about Final Four next. But if you want to go UConn, I'm down.
Alright, let's do it.
All right, let's
Let's
do it.
do it. Alright. Um, so Gonzaga, Arkansas. I'll give you the floor here because I have Gonzaga more because they're playing Utah State in mind. So
Mhm.
I want to hear your thoughts on, and I'll give you this pick because I do think Arkansas actually could plug some holes in things Gonzaga wants to do.
Yeah, no, a lot of this bracket is kind of like who you don't want to face, and if you're Arkansas, say you already beat Utah State or Arizona, right? Like you don't want Gonzaga, It's just so like that's a team that once they're hot in the Elite Eight, it's so tough to beat. Um, this matchup will be really, really good. I feel like they're both kind of at their ceiling here. It maybe depends on who makes it on the other side of the bracket, but I don't think anyone pictured this team being like a final game type team. But
Mhm.
Final Four, they've definitely both shown it. where I lean here truly is what did Arkansas show us the last 3 weeks versus what did Gonzaga show us, right? And
Yeah.
it's no fault of Gonzaga's. They're joining the Pac-12 next year. They had a really tough West Coast Conference this year. Like it was not the team of old or the conference of old, but SEC had 10 tournament teams, 10. And Arkansas went into the SEC tournament with a team that had a lot of question marks, right? But the best point guard in the country and the best scorer in the country, the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman. And so I'm just thinking, Coach Cal teams, when they went to the Final Four, went to the championship game, what have they had? It's a all-world point guard, right? When he was at Kentucky, his guards in the NBA list is insane. Like that's the top earning guards in the NBA were all Calipari guys. When he was at Memphis, right? Where yeah, right. Was he with the one? No, it wasn't Memphis, but yeah, with Derrick Rose,
Derrick
right?
Rose was Memphis, yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, he went to the final game with that team. He's old. It's different, right? It's a different era. Like Gonzaga has obviously the pieces to contain, but if you can do that to a Vanderbilt, right, to an SEC schedule, I saw Gonzaga play Michigan. I know that was early, a long time ago. I
Mhm.
just wasn't impressed with how they can guard. So I think this would be an upset of the century, right? I think that Arizona would definitely be the team to beat Gonzaga, not Arkansas. But if someone unseats Arizona, they're going to be playing so well. I think Arkansas here is my pick. It's my craziest Final Four pick. So, whatever. But I think that I love Darius Acuff. I think his offense is just so fun to watch. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. Me a couple months ago would have hated it so much, but
Right?
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I'm
Yeah.
completely cool with it. Acuff has really won me over a little bit and is playing great basketball. And they got so much depth, man. Like
They
Malik
do. They
Thomas,
do.
Brazil, Richmond. They're really good.
It used to be Acuff and no one. Now it's Acuff and a lot of guys. And it's obviously going to live and die on him, but they have played so much better defense around him that I feel better that he can go off on offense without being worn out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's do this bracket here. Sweet 16, Michigan, Alabama. Um, I just don't I think this is where Alabama's defense bites them. You know,
agreed.
like they just can't defend this level of bigs, and Phylon has already struggled with his rim finishing. That's one of the concerns with him. I just think it's too much. I think Michigan's going this.
Yeah, I think going St. Louis to Alabama stinks for Michigan in terms of 3-point shooting, but Michigan's best when they can get out on the run, and Alabama plays no defense.
No
Like,
defense.
no defense. So I think if you can get Michigan running, they're going to get them in foul trouble. They're going to slow the game down when they need to. I think Alabama's defense will kill them here. I don't think they're the same shooting team Nate Oates has had the last 3 years. So I think that it'll finally catch up to them here. And Michigan, they might have lost a good guard in Kaysen. They have great defensive guards. Burnett and Gale are so good at locking people down. Trey McKinney, amazing player now. I think you can handle Phylon, hopefully. And like you said, you don't get in foul trouble with your Michigan because guess who's standing at the rim? So I think Michigan here, but man, St. Louis, Alabama, holy cow, that's going to be tough.
That is tough. That is tough. But it definitely prepares them. I mean, that's why I have them in my Final Four.
Yep,
Like,
agreed.
it's definitely like a prep situation here. And I also feel like whoever wins this Virginia Santa Clara game, just they don't have the athletes to compete.
Yeah,
The only team, if I'm looking at this bracket up and down, the only two teams that I feel like would give Michigan problems that they haven't seen is Tennessee and Iowa State. And in Tennessee, because of the length and the
yeah,
physicality that they can bring, and Rick Barnes always gets under your skin. And then Iowa State because of how volatile they are. You saw what they did to Arizona, right? But I think if like how we have it, they're not going to run into either of those teams.
agreed. I think this is a favorable bracket for Michigan right now. I think you want to avoid Texas Tech, avoid Iowa State. Other than that, I think you match up really well defensively against everybody else.
Who do you got in this Virginia Santa Clara game?
Um, it's tough. Virginia just showed they can go all the way to the final against Duke. That's really tough. Yeah, I'd probably pick Virginia just because I'm scared, like, Santa Clara is another St. Mary's, like, that I'd pick them here and then they'd get burned. But, like, either way, this is an amazing season, so I'd probably go Virginia or Tennessee here. I think Santa Clara puts all their chips on Iowa State and then takes that and becomes a program that we see for a while, maybe even a Pac-12 program eventually. So, I'd probably do Virginia here, but close, like, really close,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Santa Clara, the magic runs out a little bit,
which
but
is
they can
fair. Yeah.
overcome it, you
Yeah.
know? Uh,
Even yeah, I mean, they might win that game too, but it's like I don't want to be wrong if Iowa State pulls off some crazy thing too. So I think we go Virginia.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, then we'd have Michigan, Virginia, and again, think it's too
The
much.
defense is so different in that game. I think, obviously what they did against Duke offensively is impressive, but I think that Michigan would roll that game. And again, this is a favorable draft for Michigan. I think that the Midwest was a great spot for them. I like Iowa State as the 2 seed. I think Michigan can match up well. It's just, can they score? Are they running dry, or did they just have a tough game against Purdue?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then we got the Final Four, man, in Indianapolis. This looks like a pretty good Final Four, man.
It
I think this
does.
could happen. This
I
could
think
happen.
we both have 2 teams from our personal in here, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
solid mix. Okay, I like it. Glad we
Mhm.
mixed it up.
So
I
so
could go
you had
either way.
Michigan and Arkansas?
Yeah, I could
Or
go either way on the UConn game, so we can leave that one. I'm going Michigan if they face Arkansas.
I
I think the defense of Arkansas would allow Michigan to get down low, and I mean their bigs can pummel people. So,
yeah,
I don't know, Acuff, like, getting people into foul trouble, like Brandon Smith was able to do that. Like, that could be very interesting. Yeah. He reminds me of like a Fears kind of, where it's like he could run 90% of the offense, and Michigan handled Fears twice. So I think
yeah.
Michigan here.
I agree. I agree. Um, UConn, Houston here. This is such
Tough.
a good game.
Yeah, great game. Another one where it feels like the national championship because they both pulled off crazy upsets, right? Where if UConn and Houston in the Final Four, it's because they're doing something right. So, based on what UConn did against certain teams, I'd probably go Houston, but like it's really tough because if they beat Duke, I mean, who's stopping this UConn team, right? So maybe I'll let you pick this one. But I love the matchup. I think that, both teams are incredible. The guard play is really fun. Um, you probably need some guy to score 25 points. Like, who's going to do it? I may put my chips on Solo Ball there. So we'll see. But I know you like Fleming. So yeah, the floor is yours on this one.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Like Flemings could definitely do that, for sure. And that's where UConn's defense is going to have to turn from 20th to first, throughout this run. And that's what I think it could do, because they have the pieces in order to do it. Reed's a really tough finisher inside. Can he get Tugler in foul trouble? Like you got Emmanuel Sharp who's playing hot, who's got one last run in him. He finally gets back. Kelvin Sampson just can't get it done. He's made Final Four like the last 3 years or whatever, and he just can't get done. He's just always there, it seems like. Um, but this game I think is gonna be really, really good. Part of the reason I had Vandy winning is like that would just be a better matchup for UConn, I think personally. I think Houston's a very difficult one. I'd actually have Houston sneaking out of this one.
Yeah, it's similar to Duke last year, right? Like, I mean, crazy stuff could happen in the last 10 seconds of the game. So, um, yeah, Houston getting a win in Houston in this version of our bracket, like they're gonna be feeling good.
Yeah.
UConn probably got to put more chips on the table against Duke than you and Houston would against Florida. So, yeah, it's tough. I'd probably lean Houston here, but obviously, could go either way.
Yeah, for sure. I think rolling Houston is probably the move for
Yeah.
our Jake's Takes bracket.
Yep. Agree.
Uh,
Especially if Duke pulls it off randomly either. So, both. So,
yeah. So Houston, Michigan here. This is whew, what a
I
matchup.
could I could take it first if you want to end it
Yeah,
because
go
I
ahead.
want this to be Jake's take. I want this pick to be totally Jake, and if you want to mix it up from your personal bracket too, or like a second bracket you have, like make sure make this one different. All good. This is
All
Michigan's year. I'll just take the floor real quick. This is Michigan's year.
right. Like it.
They are, since the beginning of the year, been the top 10 in both offense and defense, sitting
Mhm.
currently at the number 1 defense in the country on KenPom, number 8 offense without their top 5 minutes guard, LJ Kaysen. They are still top 10 on offense. On offense. So we're talking about a team that if you look at the metrics, right, you look at all these random stats on Twitter, they were top 12 in week 6. They've been the top 10 on offense and defense, right? They didn't lose their first round of the Big Ten tournament. They actually lost in the championship, which is better for some metrics, right? They're filling all the brackets. All the statistics. Now you put in Dusty May, right? What has he done? He took last year's Sweet 16 team and revamped the entire thing. He said he liked the 2 big look. He went to 3 bigs. He brought Yaxel Landenberg out of the NBA into college basketball, right? He got a better point guard who can distribute the ball and turn over at a much less turnover rate or much lower turnover rate. And then he supplements it with 2 amazing defensive guards to come in. And then the final piece of it all, what I love about this team, Trey McKinney is as great a freshman as anyone in the country right now. No, he's not going to the NBA. He's a college freshman. But what he's been able to do scoring the basketball while being a defense first guard is incredible. The guy's built like a linebacker, but can hit turnaround jump shots like he is, a 4-year vet in college basketball. So it's the deepest team in college basketball. They now lost Kaysen, so they're about, back to being average in the pack. But they were the deepest team the entire time. Dusty prepped them with a tough Big Ten schedule, a tough out of Big Ten schedule, right? Playing Duke in February, I think, is a plus. And that loss to Purdue is necessary for me. When it gets to tournament time, like we saw in the Players era, like we saw in the Big Ten regular season, like we saw up until that Purdue game, defense and length matters. And Dusty said, I'm putting all of my chips into Morris Johnson, Yaxel Landenberg, Adi Mara. All 3 were Big Ten all defensive players of the year. One team out of an 18-team conference had 3 all defensive players. I think if you get them to this game, Houston's not going to know what to do at the rim, and I think Michigan's going to pull it out because they have the guys to do it. So that's my take on the floor, but obviously, Jake, it's your podcast. Whatever you think, I'm going to agree with. You know who my personal pick is, so whatever we pick here, I'm fully aligned with.
I like it. I'm so happy we picked Houston against UConn because all the stuff you just said, Houston has too.
Yeah.
All of it. True. Everything you just said. Kingston Flemings, one of the best guards in the country, true freshman, will be a top 10 pick. You got Emmanuel Sharp, who's a senior, who's literally the senior version of Trey McKinney right now.
Right.
Does the same exact stuff. Elite defensive guard. You got Milos Uzan, another veteran who's just dying to win. Really good shooter. What Michigan wants Burnett to be, really. He's excellent at that. You got Joseph Tugler, who's been the defensive player of the year, who just does it, who's a dog and is all over the place. You got Chris Senack, who's been an excellent freshman for Houston. And you're putting size versus size, man. You got Senack, who's one of the best rebounders, who's one of the most athletic defenders going up against Yaxel. Like, come on. That's going to be awesome. You got Tugler versus a 7-footer. You got a 6'8", rugged, tough Tugler against a 7'4" Mara who blocks every shot. Like, you can't ask for anything more. This would be an awesome game, dude. I'm telling you, this would be so gritty, so tough, so physical. And you know where I lean. I lean more with teams that have been here before and done it. And that's where I think I'd go Houston. And it's nothing against Michigan. I grew up being a Michigan fan. I love Michigan. And I still love Michigan football. I had to give up on them basketball, Oakland. But, they're still 100% there. I love watching this team play. I think if you run into Houston, Dusty turned this team into a similar version to Houston. And Houston is that. They're physical, they're tough, they're rugged. We played both of these teams. Oakland played both of these 2 teams. And I knew what Houston would do to us. Like, I knew that we would only score 42 points and get physically brutalized. Against Michigan, they hit every 3, and I was like, whoa, this team's awesome talent-wise. But Houston's going to do the same thing to now a guard thing that is riddled, riddled. I think if you have LJ Kaysen, Michigan wins this game.
Agreed.
It's more guard depth, it's better. But this is not the team you wanna run into. So that's where I'm nervous, and I think he's
Fair.
done.
Hey, it's Jake's takes for a reason. I love the pick. And I think that, obviously mixing it up is probably healthier for my bracket success. So I am down to go Houston, and I think they deserve it after the last few years. So
Yeah.
would be a real tough day for me, but I think that it'd be a great game no matter what.
But yeah, and think about this Final Four. You get Darius Acuff, Detroit native, going up against Michigan.
Yep.
You get Dan Hurley going up against Kelvin Sampson, like two of the greatest coaches of all time, probably. And I think Sampson just deserves one.
Hmm.
Like, when is he going to get one? This is the team to get it. You got a true freshman point guard that does it all. You got so many seniors that are just trying to get it done for you. Like, I don't see Houston getting it done unless it's this year, you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's a great point. That's a great point. That definitely motivates teams. I like that we have 4 teams from 4 different conferences. In my opinion, the 4 best conferences. I know the ACC, Big East might be a split, but I really like that the split we have, or the spread we have, and I think, yeah, this might be the year we get the perfect bracket.
might be. It might be, man. Unless one of those first round games screw us or something.
No, it will. But yeah,
Yeah, and it
I
will.
think I very similar. You know who my champion is, but I've got Michigan, Arkansas, and then Duke, Florida on the other side. So I would think if there's any variation, it'd be UConn, Houston would be the ones to take them out 1 versus 2. So
How far do
I
you
agree
have
with you.
UConn and Houston?
What do you say?
How far do you have UConn and Houston?
UConn and Houston, I have in the Elite Eight. I have 1 versus 2 on the left side of the
1 2.
bracket. So yep,
Okay.
I've got the same variation that we had, just opposite winners, which those games are 50-50. I think that a lot of people have Michigan drop into Iowa State, like similar deal. Arizona beating Gonzaga, like a lot of variations can change. But I think this year, pick less upsets early, pick majority of upsets in that Sweet 16 Elite Eight.
Yeah. Since it's YouTube only podcast and some people watch, some people don't, I'll just throw mine out right now. I have UConn versus Vandy, my
Okay,
Final Four as the first one. And then Gonzaga versus Michigan on the other side.
great
Um,
matchups.
yeah. And then I'd have Michigan beating Gonzaga again. Again, it's just too much. Like, they're
Okay,
too
yeah, totally.
big for Gonzaga, and it would be too much. And then UConn beating Vandy. So then you get Michigan, UConn. And I just think the stuff UConn runs be too much for Michigan. At that point, the offense would be humming way more than it has been. And then defensively, I really think that Siles and Solo Ball and Reed,
Hmm.
like they really can cause problems. Like, I'm more buying into UConn's defense throughout this
Yeah.
run. And then just the stuff that they run offensively is so different than anybody else. And I think you got a guy like Braylon Mullins who can be the best shooter like
Hmm.
that you've seen, and he's been cold. He was really cold in that St. John's game, so they're going to need him in order to make the runs that I think they're going to make. But I am really excited about UConn, and I have 100% faith in Michigan. Like, I think easily the best team left. But, it's just, will they be able to finish it? Like, I always have them not getting through the national championship, you
Hmm.
know?
I have Houston being like a Purdue comp, so just get out physical them and play great defense and make the shots I need. I have UConn like a Duke, out scheme you, just the
Yeah.
plays are much better. So both really tough matchups to get for Michigan. I have Michigan Duke rematch, so I'm hoping that will Dusty will take the film and be able to. And also Duke has the same injuries as Michigan, right? So it's like a little more even playing field. Would not want to run into a hot UConn team or Houston. I agree.
The thing with Duke too is, like, will Ngamba come back? Like, that's what I'm concerned about, and that's part of the reason I was like, "Okay, it's
I
just
think he
Cameron
will,
Booth."
but will it be the same? Like, I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
yeah, like, it's almost like, okay, it's just Cameron Boozer against UConn. Like,
Yeah.
that actually gives me, more pause to pick them,
Yeah. I
But,
do like that. I mean, this is 4 coaches that have been to the Final Four, which is exciting. There'll probably be a new one. Maybe Vandy would be the one I'd probably slot in there as like the new coach. But I do think that Dusty has been here, and he not should have, but could have won that Final Four game against San Diego State. Like, I think he's got it on his mind, for what to do when he gets back to the stage. So, yeah, once you get to the final game, I'd rather play Kelvin Sampson than Dan Hurley, and that's just based on statistics of the past couple of years. So it's tough to say that because Houston might be a little more you know deep than UConn is, but I don't want to face Dan Hurley in the final. So
Yeah. Is there any team that we didn't talk about that you have going further?
I think we gave a lot of props to teams that, even if they're 50-50, I wouldn't be mad if like the listener picked them, right? Like Purdue, Tennessee, like stuff like that, where I think that if you pick them to the Elite Eight, like, props, I think that they could do it. Obviously, Arizona's a team that could burn us. I think that statistically, they're a great elite Final Four pick. I would still have Michigan beating them. So it's like, if you want to mix it up there. The one team I think we could give more credit to is probably Illinois. I think a
Okay.
3 seed was a great pull for them. If they were a 4, I think they'd lose earlier. Um, they've got just a lot of dudes. Like they brought in people mid-season, you remember, like, European guys that have been really prepped for this. And like you said, getting rest and losing isn't the worst thing in the world. So Houston may be overlooking them, right? Being like, oh, we got the Final Four locked. We're in Houston. Like that would be a sneaky upset. I don't think we gave a lot of time to. Like they got to get through Penn and VCU, like some upset heavy teams. But it's not a bad draw for Illinois. So I would, if you want to pick them as your upset team against Houston, like another one that could be like them versus Vanderbilt would be a really fun Elite Eight matchup.
Yeah, that really would.
Yeah.
That really would. Like, talk about a bracket that could go crazy. It's
Yeah.
definitely not one.
And then I think probably Iowa State on the other side would be one that's like, yeah, could they beat Michigan? Absolutely. So yeah.
Yeah. That is Iowa State's the weirdest one, dude.
Right.
It's so volatile,
Right.
and that's what I'm excited for in part 2. Like Drew and I will discuss the threats for March Madness, and they'll be super
Love it.
fun. So
Well,
yeah,
excited to listen, but this has been super fun, man. I'm really
yeah.
like, this is getting me pumped. I might fill out 5 more brackets tonight, but once I print one out and write it down, that's when it's legit. So I'm going to take all this info I learned and throw it onto my own. Yeah, I love it. The takes Final Four. Finally.
Final
We got a
Four, we
full bracket.
finally did it. Yep. So hopefully this is the year where we get it all right. It's the first perfect bracket, and then Jake Takes will be the number 1 podcast.
Oh, man, would that go crazy?
That would go crazy.
But
All
yeah,
right,
no,
man.
I think it's a great bracket. I'm excited. Everyone watching should be just excited for a great March Madness. Call in sick on Thursday. It's going to be great.
For sure. For sure. Well, that's going to wrap up the YouTube only version of us finishing the bracket. But Asher, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm excited to recap afterward and see all the craziness that's happened, and excited to see you in person soon. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yep.
sir. All right. Well, that'll wrap up the show. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.